You join me inside the cabin of the 2020 Volvo XC90 T8e all-wheel drive Inscription. This is Volvo's three-row SUV sitting at the top of their range. It's got a plug. It also has 400 horsepower, so this should be pretty interesting. And if you're wondering why I'm moving so slowly and carefully, it's because I decided, hey, farmer's look tan is cool. Farmer's tan look is cool, but at some point when all the coronavirus madness is over, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to take off my shirt, and people will be blinded. So while walking with my wife, I took off my shirt spontaneously and burned to a red crisp. Hurts to move. Okay, well, let's get into the review, huh? And there she is, almost silently humming away. The plug-in hybrid version of the XC90. They call it the T8e all-wheel drive. It's looked pretty much the same since the second generation XC90 was introduced in 2015 for the 2016 model year. And that's because, well, the exterior still looks contemporary. Still looks very clean. That's arguably the theme of this vehicle, just clean cut, exterior, interior, driving dynamics. They've done some tweaks to the exterior, very small. I'll point them out to you. But they've largely foregone a formal mid-cycle refresh, instead choosing to just do little tweaks each model year that add up to what I would consider a mid-cycle refresh 4 years into this second generation's life cycle. So let's start up here at the front. We have the iconic now Volvo Thor's Hammer headlights, LEDs, which are arguably starting to be copied by some manufacturers, or certain design elements of the Thor's Hammer being copied. I was just in that G90, Genesis G90, and it's got the cross section there, but it doesn't have the T of the Thor's Hammer. They still look good and still very recognizable on the road. This lower fog lamp air dam area has been updated since 2016. No longer are they housing actual fog lamps, it's just a stylistic thing. And in fact, these are all closed off, so no air is passing through here. Chromed out accents down there. Lower bumper has been slightly tweaked. The Volvo concave grille has been reworked a bit, and that Volvo logo standing out. This color is called Light Birch Metallic. It's $645 extra. And I think it looks fantastic. It's, in certain lights, a very light green, very faint mint green, and then in others it's a cream, and then almost a white in certain light. So getting all that from one paint job is pretty good. And compared to the Aston Martin Vanquish I was driving very recently with its $10,000 paint job, $645 seems like a bargain. This one is also riding on unique 20-inch wheels. You do get 20s, oh, these are 21s, sorry. Unique 21-inch wheels. You do get 20-inch wheels as part of the Inscription package, which is what this one is. But these 21s look good with the body. Not my favorite wheels on the planet, but they look good. They fit nicely in the large wheel housings. Inscription badging, as I showed, with that chrome strip on the side sill. We've got chrome surrounds for the windows. And then standard roof rails. And this one has the panoramic sunroof. Let's go take another look at the profile. I think this is this vehicle's best angle. So handsome, so upscale. And not a lot of frills with the design. It's very clean cut. Good looking SUV. And we get to the back, and Volvo's signature kind of accented L-shaped taillights that run all the way up from this roof-mounted spoiler down to the middle part of the hatch. XC90 badging, Volvo spelled out on the tailgate, and then T8 twin-engine all-wheel drive badging over here, along with the Inscription badge. It is interesting to note that Volvo has started to just put these like badges of honor on the back tailgate when you've got the twin engine or the Inscription, or if you get Polestar, they would put another badge back there. Just a funny little Swedish thing. Down here, chrome accenting on the lower bumper, kind of to match the chrome on the front lower bumper, and chrome trapezoidal tailpipes that fit very neatly with the bodywork. I like that. They're not sticking out too much, and there's not a huge gap between the tail finisher and the actual bodywork. That looks very tidy. Tidy and clean. XC90. So yeah, the design hasn't changed much, but it doesn't need to. It still looks very good amidst its competitors. Exterior design gets a thumbs up from me. Now let's go check out that interior. Inside. Got sort of a mixture of cream colored leather and gray accents. There's an ash wood trim here with open pore. You can feel the texture to the wood. And then brushed metal surfaces. This one has the $3,200 Bowers and Wilkins sound system. I'm not a particular audiophile, so I wouldn't spend the extra money for that, but it does look good. And I really like the look of this, especially the mix with the stitching and the leather on the door panels, and then the metal trims, and then this cream colored leather. Looks and feels excellent. That's one of my favorite things about Volvo vehicles, is their leather feels superb. So high quality. This one has Inscription imprinted here on the headrest. With the Inscription package, you do get heated and ventilated front seats and massaging function, because this one has the luxury package. So this has a couple packages on it. It's got the luxury package, it has the Inscription, it has the advanced package. Just giving you a good look at this front cabin setup here. It's a nice presentation. All right, so now we're inside. You can see the standard 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. Not a lot of configuration you can do here. Some of these digital instrument clusters you can change just about everything, but this one is kind of static. You've got your speedometer to the left, and on the normal vehicle your tach would be to the right, or it might be switched on the normal T5 and T6, but this being the plug-in hybrid, this is dedicated to charge level, and you can see it progress as you're driving. Fuel gauge just below that, and your battery life is just above and to the right of that. And you can also see how many miles of all-electric range you have just above how many total miles of range you have. I assume that's total miles. It might just be how much your gas range is. Okay, so that's the digital instrument cluster. Off here to the right, we have a 9-inch infotainment. I'm going to turn off climate control so that it's not making a noise. 9-inch infotainment has stayed the same size since the XC90 second gen was introduced in 2016, but it has been updated time and time again with faster processing, such that there is no real defined lag to this display. The menu configuration has been updated a little bit, but it's mostly the same. It's just, it doesn't have those software glitchy issues that they were having originally when the 2016 models came out. This is now fast and very smart. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard configurations with this. So whichever smartphone you have, don't worry, you'll be able to pair it up nicely. Still no physical buttons for your climate control. You do have a physical volume knob down here. Nice and large. Love that. I wish there was a physical tuner as well. Your defrosts are physical buttons, and your seat controls and pause are physical buttons. You also have a button over here for the glove box. And I think that's pretty clever. To hide it over here and not have a big grab handle that would otherwise clutter up and kind of hurt the design flow of this part over here. So it's just very clean cut, and you just hit the button and the glove box opens. And then if you wanted to turn on climate control, you can just control it manually or turn on auto climate, and all of your seat ventilation and heating will be on the seat portion here. And also in this model, because it has heated steering, you can control that here. 3 settings for each, 3 for heating, 3 levels rather. 3 for heating, 3 for ventilation, and 3 for steering wheel heating. And then passenger side, same deal, except no steering wheel button over there. To control the actual temperature of the climate, you can slide your finger up and down, or press plus or minus. As you're driving, I'm feeling like if you can kind of just approximate where you're going to want the temperature to be, it's probably going to be easy just to slide. I want it to be warmer up there. I want it to be colder down here. Because actually individually touching that while you're driving is a little tough. But we'll close out of that and we can see the other elements of this. We have your navigation system in here. You can have it take over the whole screen though. Pinch and zoom. It's pretty quick, but the graphics aren't going to blow you away or anything. And then if you do have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto paired, it will take over a portion of this bottom portion of the screen. I'll show you that, a clip from my POV drive, because I'm using my iPhone to film this, so I can actually show you it. But it takes over the bottom portion. Some people would prefer it takes over the whole screen. I'm okay with it taking over just the bottom portion, because then you still have access to all of the native infotainment functions of the screen while also getting your Apple CarPlay. If you want to go over here, then we can get access to a couple important things. One, because it's a plug-in hybrid, you can choose to hold the amount of charge in your battery. So say you're driving on the freeway and you're saying, I just want to hold that my 10 miles of electric range for when I'm driving in the city. You can choose to hold that, or you can charge the battery. I pressed that button, you heard the gas engine kick on, and now it's charging the battery. And then all of your safety functions are here, your lane keeping assistance, your parking assistance, your cross traffic alerts. This one has the optional part of the advanced package. It's the 360-degree surround view camera, so I can hit that button down here, and I've got a good overhead perspective. And if you're wondering how they do that, they stitch together the 4 camera angles. So we've got one in each mirror. We've got one there, one on this driver's side mirror, one in the front, and one in the rear. They stitch together that and project it. So you see, open this door, that camera angle goes away. I found when you're parking in tight spots or along a curb, just not knowing how close you are, just having that overhead view is another dimension to your typical looking in the mirrors, or even some cameras, some systems have side angles, but they don't actually give you all of the views that you want to see. And this is cool. You can zoom specifically on one or the other wheel. This one also has park assist, so you can it'll help you parallel park in and parallel park and get out of your parallel parking spot. Moving on back to menu, this is your one physical button down here. Press it, take you back where you were. You can adjust where the head-up display is on this vehicle, so if you're taller or shorter, you'll be able to raise or lower that display. The head-up display is not that impressive. It's part of one of the packages, and it's pretty small and not a ton of information given there. Some more information is added as you switch on certain functions, but it's not the most sophisticated or large head-up display I've ever used. It's nice that you can adjust the passenger seat from this driver's seat. You can also raise or lower the headrests, or not, you can just lower them, so you can't raise them. But I press this button, and let's zoom out and I'll show you. Bam. Headrests go down. It's cool for if you're just driving, you don't have passengers with you in the rear seats. Now your visibility is improved. You can just see easily out the back through the rearview mirror. So that's a cool function. And mention all the other safety features. Then we can slide over one more, and then you can access, if you have SiriusXM, Bluetooth, and some of your apps, along with other settings for the car, like sound experience. This one's kind of fun. So you can choose where to send the sound, or you can have it be a concert hall experience or individual stage experience. And I think the size is right. I know there are larger infotainment displays now and a lot of horizontal configurations. I like the tablet style and I like the size. So I am good with all that they've done there. Ashwood trim, more of that here. And this one also has the luxury package, and so they've got stitching for this headboard up here, or for the dashboard top panel. You can see that Bowers and Wilkins speaker right there. That's your giveaway. Little teardrop up on the dash. But yeah, so this has some upgrades in terms of the interior trim, but this leather stitching for this inside portion, that's going to be standard. Piano black, I'm not a huge fan of it. It scratches very easily. crystal shift knob. That's rad. I think that's part of the Inscription package. Ashwood inlays here. You can slide back and reveal some cup holders. Also can see the key now. Nice heavy duty key with leather material on the outside. And your controls on the side. Lock, unlock, and remote open that tailgate. Press this forward, and you've got another little cubby in here, all with these removable bottoms. So if they get dirt and dust in there, you can just take them out and clean them very easily. Open the center console. You have USB port here. You've got two of them, in fact. But these are the only two USB ports in the car. I'll get into that a little later. This is also not a very large center console area. You can see it's just kind of for some quick access to things like your garage door opener, but not a whole lot that you can fit in that. And that brings me to the storage of the vehicle. I'll get back to the USB ports in a sec, but I already showed the glove box is a pretty good size. But that's your largest cubby in the vehicle. You've got this center console, and then you have the door pockets. But here's a win, and it's time for the large water bottle test. We can fit the Nalgene size water bottle in the door pockets. Not every vehicle can do this, so that's a win for me. You cannot fit them in the cup holders. But the USB ports, the two in here, are the only USB ports in the car. You've got these 12-volt plugs, socket plugs, a couple different places that I'll point out, but no other USB ports in the car. That's a big whiff, in my opinion. For 2020, not having USB ports, not USB-C, just not even USB. You have two USB ports, and you're probably going to share them between these front passengers. So that leaves the rear passengers to bring their 12-volt socket to USB conversion things with them to plug them in and have access to smartphone charging. Not the best. The panoramic sunroof, however, is of good size and brings in lots of light into this cabin. Another part of the luxury package is this stitched leather border for the visor and for these grab handles. One thing worth noting in straight pipe style is that you cannot pull this. So this is as far as your sun protection is going to go on the window side. Don't love that. Soft touch materials up here, though not crazy soft, and then more of that wood inlay that looks excellent. This is just a really nice spec for the cabin in this XC90. Large rearview mirror here, frameless, but no fully digital kind of whatever they call that. The see-through digital rearview mirror, so you can't switch it over and have it have a digital projection. So if you do have a full car, you're gonna have to use other mirrors to see around. But let's hop into the back seats. I'll flip up these headrests. And one big change for 2020 is that you can now have captain's chairs, as this one is equipped with the Inscription. More of this nice detailing on the door panels, and then this one has sun visors for those rear passengers. Very useful, and so what if they're manual? It's actually easier and faster that way. Piano black materials for the window switches. Every time I see piano black, I'm just thinking that's going to scratch easily. Piano black for the door locks, but the brushed metal look is nice, along with the Bowers and Wilkins. Plenty of space for this second row. I'll sit in so you can see. I'm 6 feet tall. I've got plenty of leg room, 4 inches from the knee. And if I sit even more upright, I have even more leg room. Stash pockets behind the seats. Soft touch material for the seat backs. It's not that really hard plastic. And that's my driving position for reference, so you can easily fit. Coming over to the rear seat controls. This $3,100 luxury package does come with rear heated seats with 3 settings. And then you have dual zone climate control for these rear passengers. So you hit this unlock button, you set whatever your strength of ventilation is, and then as you do that you can, this is giving me some problems here. You can select ideally, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here, but you can set your temperature for each rear passenger. Here's what I get to with the USB ports. Not here, you get a 12-volt socket. And this looks a little tacked on to me. That should be better integrated, but you do have rear cup holders. And then without this third seat, it's much easier to get into the rear seats, which I've folded the headrests on, but I'm going to raise them so you can see. Nice looking cabin back here with a little bit of storage between these seats. Again, no USB ports. A little pocket over here and a cup holder, and that's kind of it for these rear passengers. So they're not going to be scrumming it, but it's not the most accommodating. The panoramic sunroof doesn't reach back there. There's not an individual sunroof like in some of these vehicles for them. You get some lights and a cup holder and a little pocket. That's about it. We can see that on the Inscription we have accommodations for 6 individuals. I like that Volvo didn't try to squeeze 3 seats into that third row. I've seen it done on other vehicles and it's possible, but even if the people are small, that's really tight. So you trying to make this into a 7 or 8 seater, this is just the more premium experience, having accommodations for 6 adults. Adults question mark until I get back into that third row. And speaking of, let's see how that goes. Oh, before I move on from this second row, I noted that I had legroom, but I also forgot to mention that I have foot pockets here, so it's easy to slide my feet under there and really stretch out those legs. So they're not pinched up tight like this, like in some vehicles that don't accommodate. Volvo did a nice job of creating some good sized foot pockets so you really can relax in the second row. But okay, if we want to get to that third row, we pull this tab, the seat back angles forward, and then we push. There's not a massive amount of room to get into the back. This is also a high lip, so you really have to raise your leg up to squeeze in. If you did move that driver's seat forward, you would have more slide, more articulation on these rails, but asking the driver to move it forward every time you need to get into the third row is a bit annoying. But it is possible to get back here, as I will show. And now I'm going to move this seat back. And here's what we got. So now, 6-foot driving position, 6-foot second row passenger, and now me. I don't really have much leg room here. I'm sitting upright, my knee is in the seat back. It's not uncomfortably pinched in the seat back, and thankfully, because there is no middle seat in the second row, I can extend the right leg. Hey, second row passengers, hope you don't mind my leg just being here. But this is doable. Headroom wise, yeah, my head's on the roof. And that's where we kind of get into the fact that this XC90 is on the smaller side of the 3-row SUVs. All right, so to get out, do the same thing, push, and you've got an exit. Not a large exit, but an exit. Snaps with authority. Okay, now let's go over to the trunk. Power tailgate. And we can see here that there's a fair amount of storage beyond that third row. We've got almost 12 cubic feet of space. And then this false floor is storage for your charging cable. But that's really not very deep there, so you don't have much storage for anything else. That's because you're dealing with the battery system and the electric motors, so you just don't have as much storage as normal XC90 T5 and T6 models. You have, I think, 64.7 cubic feet of space when you fold down all rows, so the third and second row seating. And because this XC90 is equipped with the optional air suspension, 4-corner air suspension, you have this control to raise and lower this trunk to make it easier for you to lift in heavier items. I'll show you that I just whacked my head on that tailgate. Taller individuals, watch out for that. You can see there's not a ton of change, but it is quick. It's one of the faster air suspensions I've seen. So yeah, maybe a couple inches, but because of the angling, it does really make a difference in terms of lifting in things over this kick plate down here. Okay, so getting into folding down the seats. You can't do so via power, as I mentioned, but pulling this tab once kicks down the headrest and then pressing it forward. Pretty easy to fold them down. You then having to go around and do the other two seats manually. To actually lower this, you got to pull this tab. Then it folds with the headrest. Tucks down really flat and neat. Because you're missing that third seat in the middle. Come on, all the way. There we go. It's not going to be completely flat throughout. You have that little gap there, but that's a good amount of room. You just pull on up, and on the third row, I wish they had put some sort of grab handle or something to raise the seats, because as is, you have to squeeze yourself all over, and then you just don't have a lot of leverage there. But you can raise it. But a grab handle would have been nice. Would have been a nice addition. All right, so that is your storage space in the XC90. Power closing tailgate. And I think it's about time to drive it. Oh yeah, get it XC90. Show me that 400 horsepower. How do we get to the 400 horsepower? How do we get to the T8 in the progression of XC90? Well, it starts with the T5 with a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged and front-wheel drive. Then you step up to the T6, which has a supercharger attached to the turbocharging of the 4-cylinder and all-wheel drive. And then finally the T8 that we're driving here has 2 electric motors added to the mix, and that's how you get your 400 horsepower and 472 pound-feet of torque, making for a quick run to 60, 5.3 seconds. And whichever variation of the XC90 you choose, you get an 8-speed automatic transmission. In this T8, you get that plug. So you have 18 miles of all-electric range, which is probably enough for most people to get to work, maybe even to and from work. But ideally, if you have a plug at work, you can drive to and from work just on electricity. If not, well, then you got 27 combined MPGe or 58 combined MPGe. The driving experience of this 400 horsepower plug-in hybrid vehicle is plenty for your passing maneuvers or getting up to speed on a highway, that's for sure. And it's smooth. I think that plug-in hybrid and luxury go hand in hand when it's a really well-developed hybrid platform, because it's smooth. It's using the electricity when it doesn't have to use the gas engine, and in this case with the XC90, it's just a really easy handoff. Like, okay, we're using too much power, I need the gas engine, kick on that 2-liter and you barely hear it. Speaking of barely hearing things, this cabin is so quiet, so very serene. It is a full-on luxury vehicle in that capacity, because you shouldn't have to hear what the chaos of the outside world is like. You're in your luxury vehicle. You want to commute in this, you want to take a nice drive in this, it's going to be quiet. The ride quality, however, is a little firm for me. I think that with this 4-corner air suspension that you have as an option, it's like $1,800. The ride should be a little softer than this, even though I'm on 21-inch wheels and therefore I have narrower sidewalls than if I was on 20-inch wheels or 18-inch wheels. That would certainly help with the ride quality, but I think the ride should be a little smoother than this. When I go over lane markings, for example, I can feel them. But the powertrain is just super smooth. So very much convinces me this is a full-on luxury vehicle. It's not a luxury light vehicle. It's not a luxury alternative vehicle. It's a full-on luxury vehicle. You do have some adjustability with this powertrain as well. As I showed, while moving, you can just hit charge and you'll be charging up that electric motor, or hold and you'll latch on to whatever electric juice you have left. But then you can go into your drive modes with this scroll wheel down here, and you can choose from either constant all-wheel drive, just forces the all-wheel drive system on at all times, or pure, which they label as eco drive. Yes, it is. and that's maximizing, kind of prioritizing the all-electric range as much as possible until you've used it all up. And then below that is hybrid, and they label that everyday use. I love the descriptors. Of course, Volvo has to tell you the application of your drive modes. Couldn't just label it a drive mode, you gotta actually describe it. So the everyday use for hybrid, and that's just working its way between the electric motor and the gas engine, optimizing your fuel economy as much as possible. And then you have power, which they describe as sporty driving. Thank you, I wasn't sure. Sporty driving, and that just kicks on the gas engine at all times. And so you have access to all 400 horsepower whenever you need it. And then you have one last one, which we're not going to see today, and that is its off-road mode, which with the four-corner air suspension will raise the vehicle when you're going off-road and will optimize the all-wheel drive system to make sure you don't lose traction. I also love, I didn't mention this, the start-stop engine is not a button, it's a crank. Here we go. Power mode. The four-cylinder doesn't sound that bad. Doesn't sound that bad. And it's weird to say that. Four-cylinder in a three-row luxury SUV as opposed to a V6 or a V8, but the four-cylinder really doesn't sound that bad. And like I said before, it just works itself so smoothly with this 8-speed automatic transmission, which just changes gears very seamlessly. No paddles on the steering wheel, so you're not going to be doing manual driving. Even though you've got your 400 horsepower, you're just going to let the transmission do its thing, and it knows what it's doing, especially in this power mode. And the chassis dynamics are good. You know, you're going to be able to take corners with confidence and stability. And there's urgency to the electric steering rack. The turn-in is quick. I do find myself on a freeway right now, so I'm going to throw in a discussion of the active safety features, which I feel are a little less than on this XC90. Certainly, full-on safety. It's got the comprehensive suite of airbags. Volvo is a very safe brand. The XC90 is no exception. It's going to get that 5-star, if it hasn't already, the NHTSA and IIHS crash safety ratings. I digress. Talking about the safety functions right now. So it has adaptive cruise control and lane keeping aid. I'm on a very straight road right now, and I'm watching the car just go right, float right, and then it will like correct you, but typically when I'm right on the lane. And for other people in other lanes who might also be on the lane, that's brush and door mirrors there. So it's getting upset because I've kept my hands off the steering wheel too much. I'm going to say that this suite of active driver aids is not as sophisticated as I've experienced on Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, even the Genesis G90 that I was just in. Not a rival to this, but speaking of other brands doing this, I don't feel like this is as intuitive and certainly not as, driver fatigue reducing as other vehicles. Now we're going to get into the competition discussion. We have the Germans, of course. You have the BMW X7 with its 3 rows and a little more space than this, and the Mercedes-Benz GLS, 3 rows, a little more space than this, and then you've got the Audi Q7, which I would say is the direct rival to this. About the same interior volume and very close on price. So $53,000 or so for the base Audi Q7, $49,300 I believe for the base XC90. This T8 starts at $68,990 I believe, and that's kind of how I would go with this. This one I'm driving as tested is just under $87,000, and I think that's too much. I think that's too much for what I'm driving. There are nice luxury touches. It drives very smoothly. The ride quality could be better, as we've discussed. The powertrain is really nice, but I think 87 grand is too much for what you're getting here. I think if you can keep this in the low 70s, it's really compelling because the look is just, it's so beautiful to look at. I love how the XC90 looks on the outside. The interior is very clean. It's got all the tech you need-ish. No wireless smartphone charging. That's a knock for me. No USB-C ports and only 2 USB ports. That's a knock for me. And the head-up display being as boring as it is, and the digital instrument cluster only being able to adjust a few different ways, those are a knock for me. So it's not the cutting edge of tech and luxury, but it holds its own in this segment. But 87 grand is too much. So if you can keep it in the low 70s, I really like that. whereas the X7 and the GLS are in the low to mid 70s to start. That's starting. And so you add any options to those, they're in the high 80s, 90s, even low 100s, those vehicles. The Q7, similar proposition as the XC90. It's going to work itself up to the low 80s, but you're getting all the bells and whistles at that point. I think the Q7 with the 2020 updates is a very compelling vehicle. Where the XC90 really pulls ahead for me is the fact that it is a plug-in hybrid, and so you can drive very fuel efficient, and because of the way it makes the driving so much more quiet and smooth,